Buckeye Talk with reaction from the 2022 NFL Draft. Nathan Baird from cleveland.com, along with Stephen Means. A run on receivers, a run on Ohio State receivers, or at least former Ohio State receivers. Garrett Wilson at number 10, he starts it off to the Jets. Chris Olave at number 11 to the Saints. Jameson Williams at number 13 to the Lions. The last two teams trading up to take those guys. We're going to talk about Garrett Wilson here, the guy who started that run. We knew, many people thought coming into this draft, he might be the number one overall receiver on the board. That ended up not being correct. The Atlanta Falcons took Drake London from USC at number 8, but not a shock then that Garrett Wilson does not get outside the top 10. This seemed to be the trajectory for him for a long time.
Yeah, I think we all were in agreement that either the Falcons were going to take him or the Jets were going to take him with the 10th pick. That's what this boiled down to. And both of them made sense for different reasons. For the Falcons, they need a receiver because they don't have any receivers, and they were one of the worst teams in the league last year when it comes to, reception and yards and whatnot. While with the Jets, it's like, all right, you've got a rookie quarterback last year. It's time to get him some weapons. They went and got a defensive guy earlier. And just now you take Garrett Wilson and you pair him with Zach Wilson in New York, and you see what happens.
Yeah, the Jets took Zach Wilson from BYU, number 2 overall, I believe it was last season. So, but the receiving core stunk. Like they had him, they got that out of the way. A lot of times that's the hard part, is trying to find a franchise quarterback. We'll see if that's what he turns out to be for them, but they got to go find him weapons. They have Elijah Moore in that room, who looks like he might have something going on, but he's still early on. They got Corey Davis, who was a former first-round pick of the Titans and just last year got to the Jets. He only played about 9 games. He has never really turned in first-round-ish production. They need more talent in that room. And I think of all the things that make Wilson an appealing guy at that spot, at number 1, you have just his athleticism, his ability to separate, like all those skills. But when you have that many needs in your receiving room, I think his versatility is a real plus for the Jets. A guy that could probably fit both at the slot or outside, depending on what they need as this thing starts to come together. They can, move him around and get him in what's the most advantageous place for that whole receiving core.
Yeah, I think, and obviously we don't cover the NFL and stuff like that, but he's the only one who's got a surefire, supposed to be franchise quarterback in place of the wide receivers up to who are within the top 15 here who were taken. So it's like, we've seen a wide receiver take home NFL Offensive Rookie of the Year the last 2 years with that same concept of, pairing him with a supposedly franchise quarterback. I think Garrett Wilson's probably best positioned if Zach Wilson takes that next step and Garrett is what he's supposed to be as a number 1 wide receiver for an NFL team.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting idea. Garrett Wilson is a guy from Texas, but the spotlight's been on him from a very early age. He came out as a 5-star top 20 prospect, spent the last 3 years at Ohio State, which is about as big of a microscope as you can be under during your college career. I think personality-wise, demeanor-wise, makeup-wise, however you want to say it, I think he'll fit fine in New York, I should say. Not Newark. He'll probably go to Newark once in a while. But
he'll probably live in Newark. It's probably cheaper to live in Newark, but yeah,
I don't think he'll have to worry about rent very much.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I think he's perfectly suited to be living in New York. Random fact: he was the number 2 wide receiver in his recruiting class, and now he's the number 2 wide receiver in his draft class. Recruiting rankings, so not always wrong.
Interesting how that. Well, they weren't right about who was number 1 ahead of him. I think I would argue in that class. But Garrett Wilson, number 10 to the New York Jets. Much more discussion about him and the other guys who were selected tonight on Buckeye Talk. Find us wherever you can find podcasts.